my protection.
Protection from what?
Koryuken.
We're gonna be in the new world in no time. This is exhilarating. Get excited.
Yo, hey, Drawn Up.
What up?
Real quick. Do you have any family traditions that your family partakes in that you don't really know why, but it's just part of like what y'all do?
I mean, I guess Sunday church, but I mean, we know
no,
why
no,
we
no,
do
no,
that.
Yeah,
like,
Sunday. No, that's I understand.
Does that fit the?
Yeah, that's a tradition.
Okay,
That's a tradition. Church. You can't go wrong with church.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's about. I mean, maybe like a cookout for the 4th of July, but nothing crazy. We're not really that.
Well, like my family's got mainly traditions like that as well. Church, cookouts. Just like during the big holidays. Oh yeah, and then I'll say one that we do during Christmas. We like all the adults buy like all the like grown-ups buy like $25 to $30 gifts.
Okay.
And we set them in the middle of a carpet in the middle of the big room, like that we celebrate Christmas in. And we draw numbers from a hat, and we do the Chinese Christmas thing. Basically, first person picks, second person can steal or pick another one.
Oh.
And once a gift is stolen 3 times, you can't be stolen again.
Okay.
So basically, that's how we play.
You got to use your steal wisely then.
Yeah, exactly. Because if it's been stolen once and you steal it, guess what? Somebody else can
come in,
and that's it. And I remember we do that every year. And I remembered one year I bought this like awesome hatchet set that I was gonna give to like my cousin, but then I found out that my cousin already had like a good hatchet set. And I was like, well, damn. Okay, well, I guess I'll throw it in the ring for the Chinese Christmas thing. And lo and behold, it's the first one picked.
Really?
The first one picked. My cousin Daniel, he saw it, or he saw like the box, and he was just like, all right, he opens it up, and he's just like, as soon as he opens it up, it was literally this face. He goes.
And just shut up.
He ain't saying nothing. He ain't showing it, and that's not allowed. And there was like, he's like, Danny, open it up. Everyone needs to see it. Everyone needs to see it. And Danny's like, come on.
Wow.
And it's just he opens it up, and everyone's just like, woo, hatchet set. So the next 4 people that picked were women, and none of them were interested in what Danny had. So then my Uncle Steve comes up. My Uncle Steve's just like, oh, I want that, Danny. And he stole it from Daniel, and Daniel's like, no! And then Daniel Daniel grabs another one, and he opens it up. It's a Bath and Body Works, like basket thing. All these incense and shit. And he's like, oh, dang it.
Played.
So yeah. And then someone else went after him, and then they stole the hatchet set from my Uncle Steve. Yeah, they stole the hatchet set from my Uncle Steve.
So he ain't even happy.
And my Uncle Steve opened up another gift, but then another person went. It was Danny's sister, Abby. She went, and then she was about to open up a gift, and then she looks over at Daniel and says, "You know what? I want that basket that you got, Daniel." And Daniel's like, "Wait a minute. I could pick another gift, or I can steal. Give me the hatchets." He got the hatchets back, and that was the 3rd steal, and no one could touch him after that.
My plan.
And he was just like, yes, yes. And he still uses them to this day. That was like 3 Christmases ago. He still has them like out in his woodworking shop, and he still uses them.
Well, I'm glad it worked for him, because it sounds like he really wanted them.
Oh yeah, he did. He wanted them bad, and that's really like the one tradition that we do that. When I tell other people about it, they're like, "Oh man, that's cool. Like, maybe we should try that sometime."
Oh yeah, that's gets everybody together and talking and community. I mean, I love that, dude. Yeah, that's what it is.
And it's just about and if you wind up with a bad gift, it's nothing bad because it's like $20.
Thanks. Yeah,
it's like it ain't like nothing you spent like a massive amount of money on. It's
something
just
you didn't have it.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. And plus, And plus, hey, like, if it's a gift that don't fit you, just be like, hey, you want to trade?
Trade out.
Yeah, you can trade out. Like, that's the thing. We allow trades after the game is over.
Seems like nobody walks away mad.
No, not at all, man.
That's
the kicker. Is like, we always do that stuff. Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
See, I wish we did have something more kind of like homemade like that. No, at times I do wish we had some more stuff like that.
Ah, man, well, for
my future family, definitely establish some shit like it.
Well, every family has their thing, man. I mean, well, there's family traditions that weird me out a little bit. I got some cousins, the Sowardses. They do a pig. They basically do a whole hog barbecue, and basically they find the hog they want. They butcher it, and then they cook it up, and I'm just like, and I saw the whole hog barbecue, and I'm just like, whoa, that's insane, because they basically use an old pit that's like made out of cinder blocks, and they put it on a wire rack thing to like cook it over the. They don't use number one. Do not use propane. No propane.
Okay.
Old school like coals of a fire.
Okay.
You know? You get the coals, like the ash at the bottom, and then you put it under it and it cooks it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I ain't nobody.
Okay. I had one earlier and it was a telemarketer, and I'm just like,
yeah, facts.
Yeah. But the way they go about it, it tripped me up when I first saw it, but now it's just like, it's whatever.
Yeah, true that.
Because I was gonna say the barbecue's good. The barbecue's good.
Sounds like they care about it.
You need to put more sauce on it, y'all. It's good, but every time I get it off there, I taste it and I'm just like, it's butter, like it melts in your mouth like butter, but there is not as much flavor as I'd like there to be. It's like, all right, give me that sriracha, give me that barbecue sauce, let me slather that on there,
milk it down,
and then let it sit for a little bit. Then I'll get out the fork and just be like,
perfect.
Now we're talking.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of sriracha and a little bit of barbecue sauce.
Okay, I never had the sriracha barbecue combo.
Oh, yeah. Sriracha gives you that kick that you want, but it also has a little tanginess to it, and it complements the barbecue sauce, especially like the sweet and savory, or the sweet, like, hickory smoke one. Ooh, yeah. I love that.
Sounds like a nice compliment. Doesn't overtake it. Yeah,
no. It's like, I can see that. You get everything that you want. You get a little bit of tang, a little bit of sweet, a little bit of kick. Yeah. And that's exactly how I like it.
Sounds like a good barbecue.
Mm-hmm. But
what's
speaking of family traditions,
what tradition we got?
We got the worst family tradition ever documented, and it's Mr. Ballin here, John B. Allen.
Okay.
He's going to be telling us 3 stories involving like some really messed up stuff. Just so you know, it can get pretty disturbing.
Really?
Once. Yes.
These are traditions.
Yes.
Okay.
You'll see. Well, I guess might as well just hop on into it and see what happens.
Might as well, man.
Are you ready?
I'm anxious, yeah. I'm trying to see what's going on.
Dang it, Apple. Stop trying to update my stuff.
Always.
It never ends. All right. Anyway, here we go.
Are you ready?
Today, we're going to cover 3 strange but true stories. Fair warning, the top story today is absolutely repulsive. So if that's not your thing, you've been warned. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So if that's of interest to you,
I forgot to ask,
wait until the like button has left for their summer vacation.
Thank you,
and while they're gone, completely decorate the interior and exterior of their house for Christmas. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's stories.
Ballin'.
We ballin'.
On the morning of September...
This dude's a horror-related channel. Imagine if there was a basketball-related channel that wanted to call himself Mr. Ballin'. And then this dude, he was just like, Mr. Ball... Damn, he's got 10 million... He ain't even basketball.
This ain't even basketball.
It's just
that's what I was thinking.
And the funniest thing about it is, Mr. Ballin, that was actually a mistake because his name is John B. Allen, his middle initial B, and he put it all together, John B. Allen, and it came out John Ballin. And then they all just call him Mr. Ballin, and then it just stuck.
There was no turning back.
Nope.
September 23rd, 1839, an experienced sailor named Captain Brighton stood on the deck of his ship, which was traveling through the Drake Passage, which is located right along the northern coast of Antarctica. He and his crew had sailed here because they were professional whalers, and they had heard there was this massive population of whales in the Drake Passage that basically were untouched by humanity because basically nobody sailed this far. This was a freezing cold, very austere part of the world,
like South
kind of a
America.
dangerous place
Dude,
to be.
they're all over the place.
So far, Captain Brighton and his crew had not seen a single whale. And on top of that, the Drake Passage had proven to be as dangerous as expected. Just the previous night, the ocean around the ship had literally frozen, basically anchoring the ship in place. And so when this happened, Captain Brighton realized, like, there was nothing they could even do about this. I mean, they were stuck. And if this didn't break up soon, they'd be stuck here all winter potentially, and it was unclear if they could actually survive that. But fortunately, also the previous night, this massive storm rolled in, which, you know, that's dangerous in and of itself. But the severity of the storm was actually a good thing because it broke up the ice around the ship and allowed Captain Brighton to sail away.
Well,
and so now
they can't. Well, here's the thing. In the past, he would show like examples of like stuff that he saw that like he would like use for imaginative purposes. And then people would be like, "Oh wow, that's an awesome picture of this actually happening. Oh wow, that's actually an awesome picture." And he always has to put like the little disclaimer up there to let people know if this is a actual picture of it or not.
Fair
because
enough.
People kept getting confused by it.
That's good on him, keeping it authentic.
Yeah.
Now, you know, that morning, the ocean was again, you know, liquid, so they were able to move around. But Captain Brighton had a very difficult decision to make. You know, again, so far they have not caught any whales, and they've invested a lot of time and money to get out here. But, you know, if he stayed out here much longer, he knew they could potentially get stranded again, and he just couldn't let that happen. And so he needed to decide if he was going to keep on sailing further into the Drake Passage to maybe find a couple whales, or
turn
leave
around
now before it was too late. But
I'm leaving. I'm leaving.
I'm gone too.
Like, dude, I know you're like you money and investment and all that, and you may lose your ass, but you don't want to lose your life.
No, we can come back.
Yeah,
we can come back.
Exactly. Build your rep up again, get another investor, and try again.
Yeah.
As Captain Brighton weighed his options,
Because what you gonna do when you see the whale
noticed...
anyway? Like, in my opinion, like, what are we gonna do with this whale?
Yeah, because
here's
what's gonna happen. You're gonna get the whale, and then you're just gonna sail on out, or you can go in, get some whales, and then guess what? Your ass is still trapped.
Facts.
Your ass is still trapped.
Get out with your life.
Exactly. Come back later. If the sea is a cruel mistress and will eat you alive.
Something over the horizon.
About it.
Was this dark shape. And at first, he actually thought he was hallucinating, because really, there's nothing else out here. It's just him and ocean and ice. That was it. But as he continued to stare in the direction of this dark object, which was actually getting closer to him, he realized it was a real thing, and in fact, it was another ship, which was really surprising, because again, nobody really comes out here. And so his instincts were, okay, this has got to be a rival whale ship. I mean, that's the only other people who would come out here. But as he continued to stare at the ship, you know, as it got closer, he realized it was not a whale ship. It was actually a schooner, which is a ship designed for traveling. But as Captain Brighton stared at the schooner that was getting closer and closer, he saw it was in pretty rough shape. I mean, the hull and the sails were very tattered. I mean, there was something off about the ship. But Captain Brighton was thinking, you know, hey, I know you can get trapped in the ice out here. It happened to them the night before. Maybe this crew has gotten trapped in the ice. You know, they've been stuck out here for who knows how long. They could be in pretty rough shape. And Captain Brighton knew they actually did have, at least at that moment, quite a bit of supplies, at least some to spare. And so he called out to his men to ready a dinghy and get some supplies, because they were going to go over to this schooner and basically offer up some extra supplies and also check in on them and make sure they were okay. And so once the supplies were packaged up and put on the dinghy, Captain Brighton, along with 4 other men, hopped in the dinghy and they began paddling over to the schooner. And as they got closer, the waves were pretty bad, and so they're kind of jostling around, and the ship itself, the schooner, is also moving, and so that's moving up and down. But periodically, as they got closer, they'd be able to look into the portholes, which are like windows on the side of the schooner, and Captain Brenden could clearly see there were people inside of the schooner. He called out a few times, but it was windy and sort of loud, and he couldn't really tell if any of them heard him or if anybody called back. And so eventually, Captain Brenden and his crew, they got to the side of the schooner, and they just climbed up the ladder and boarded the ship. And once they were on the ship, once they were on the deck of the schooner, they're looking around, and everything was in working order, albeit sort of tattered and in rough shape. But the weird thing is nobody was out on deck. They had seen people in the portholes, which was inside the ship, but there was nobody above deck. And so Captain Brenden's thinking, okay, this is pretty weird here, but we clearly just need to go inside and talk to someone. And so Captain Brenden and his men walked across the deck to this door that led into the ship. It actually led into the captain's quarters, at least, based on basic ship construction, that's what they expected it to be. And so Captain Brenden, he gets to the door, he knocks and calls out, announces that they're here with supplies and just to make sure everybody is okay. But there's no answer. All they can hear is the slapping of the water against the ship. There's no voices, there's nothing. It's silent on the ship. And so Captain Brenden eventually just opens up this door, and sure enough, he looks into this dark space, and it's the captain's quarters. And there's a desk towards the back of this room, and there's a man sitting at the desk with his back to them. And so Captain Brenden, he takes a cautious step into the captain's quarters, and he calls out to this man who clearly appears to be the captain. But the man doesn't say or do anything. He's clearly focused on something at his desk. And so Captain Brenden exchanged a worried glance with his men, and then just decided he would walk across the room and go physically interact with this guy and make sure he was okay and see what was going on here. And so slowly, Captain Brenden began walking across the room, and as he did, he called out a few more times to this man who appeared to be the captain, but he didn't get a response. And then finally, he was right behind the man, and he actually looked down and read what the man had been writing. This is what it said. Trapped by icebergs. Despite all efforts, the fire went out last night. No hope remains. However, as unsettling as that would be to read for anybody in this situation, what was the most unsettling part was actually what was written right above that journal entry. The date, January 17th, 1823. 16 years before. That captain and his entire crew were all dead, and had been for 16 years.
Oh my God.
They got trapped in the ice just like Captain Brenden had, but it didn't break up. They were stranded, and they all froze to death. And because it was so cold out in that part of the world, all their bodies were basically preserved in their final moments. And so the captain of the ship, before he died, was making an entry to say what happened. And then down below, when Captain Brenden and his men went to go look, they found people playing cards who had literally frozen to death while playing cards.
Whoa.
They found a woman lying in her bed with her dog. That's how they froze to death. They found people in the dining hall, and they died right where they were sitting. It was like all these people had been frozen in time for nearly 2 decades, just floating around in Drake's Passage. And basically nobody had found them until Captain Brenden.
And he's thinking, we're next.
Well, yeah, I would be thinking that too. Well, dude,
Damn, I would have rather not found them.
I would rather not neither, man. Like, imagine finding a ship, like a ghost ship, literal ghost ship.
Literal.
Yeah, in the middle of the damn, like, southern Atlantic.
Hey, what card game y'all playing? Hey.
And all of a sudden it's just like, oh man, he's got a good hit. Literally takes his hands off that are attached to the cards and just like,
Full house. No.
yeah, it's just like, yeah, it's the dead man's hand. Aces over eights. Jesus.
Oh my good dude, what?
That's what I'm
I'll
saying.
be like, why we even come down here?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh man.
Sheesh.
What do you do? I guess you can't do anything. You're stuck.
At that point, gosh.
That sucks.
Tell me
We got a
about
part
it.
2?
Yeah, there's two. There's another one here.
Let's get it.
Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. And on
Skip because
58.
BetterHelp.
Oh, God.
BetterHelp. I don't like BetterHelp. They basically don't do what they say.
Are they scamming?
For the most part,
scammers?
yeah. For the most part.
Damn.
On the runway. Uh-oh.
On the catwalk. Yeah, on the catwalk.
On the night of May 20th, 1958, a young man named Ram Thapa walked towards the entrance of an abandoned airport in eastern India. He was trailing behind 3 other men. They were his boss, another employee of his boss, and then a friend of his boss. It was pitch black outside, and so all 4 men had flashlights. But Ram also had something else. He had a huge knife. So the reason they were there is Ram's boss was considering buying this airport. However, there were these rumors floating around that this airport was now haunted ever since being abandoned. In fact, people said, the old hangars and rusted out buildings were infested with ghosts. Now, Ram totally believed that this place really was haunted, but Ram's boss wanted to go and check it out, before he actually considered really buying this place. And so he had recruited these 3 other guys, Ram included, to go basically on a ghost hunt. And so going into this, Ram's boss and the 2 other men, they're sort of like, okay, this is intriguing. It's kind of funny that we're going on this ghost hunt. But Ram, he was terrified. He did not like the idea of going into this airport, especially at night. He fully believed there were ghosts out here. He had brought the knife along to protect himself from ghosts. But his boss was basically telling him that he had to go, and so Ram was there. And so Ram's boss reached the gate, he unlocked it, and pushed it open. And as it slowly swung open, it made this horrible creaking sound. And for the first time, all 4 men are getting an unobstructed view into the actual property. And it's totally, again, pitch black, and they're shining their lights inside, and all they see are just these old hangars and different big buildings and broken down planes, but there's no movement. It's totally dark and it's quiet. And so Ram's boss and the other 2 men, they're walking along, and Ram's in the back, and he's so uneasy, he feels practically sick to his stomach. Everywhere he looked, he would think that he saw a shadow, a ghost staring back at him, but he would shine the light and, nothing would be there. And so this whole time they're walking, he's totally on edge. And eventually they reached the actual runway. And when they got there, instead of shining their lights kind of straight out in front of them, because there was basically nothing out ahead of them, it was just, where planes go to take off and to land, they began shining their lights predominantly off to the side, where there was this huge hangar, and they were all shining their lights in the different windows to see if, anybody was inside of there. And so they're all kind of focused off to the side, and Ram, the whole time, he's totally terrified here. And as, his boss and his friends are kind of shining their lights over here, Ram takes his flashlight and he aims it straight out in front of them. And he sees maybe a couple 100 meters away, just off to the side of the runway, is what appears to be this floating orb. And immediately he keeps his light trained on this orb, and he signals to his boss and the others like, hey, look at this. And they all turn, and they're kind of like, joking around, and they shine their light, and they also see it. They see this floating orb. It made no sense. They noticed that there was not just this orb of light, but there was something below the orb of light, like on the ground. Something was moving, this grayish figure, or multiple figures were kind of like moving around right beneath this orb. But before any of them could say or do anything or react really in any way to whatever it was they were looking at, the dark figures right below the orb, as they're being illuminated by all their flashlights, it was like all of a sudden, whatever they were, they turned, and all these eyes glinted and looked directly back at Ram and his colleagues.
Whoa.
And it was like something inside of Ram just clicked. He was so scared. He'd been terrified from the moment they got here, and the whole time he had been so primed to protect himself if he had to with this knife. And it was like when he saw these eyes, he didn't have any idea what they were, but he knew they were evil, and if he didn't act, they were doomed. And so, without saying anything to his boss or the other 2 men, with knife in hand, Ram took off running towards the figures. A few hours later, Ram and his colleagues were no longer at the airport. Instead, they were at the police station, and Ram was in handcuffs. It would turn out those figures that they spotted that Ram went to go confront with his knife were not actually ghosts. Instead, they were 3 women who had come onto the airfield as well, but just to pick flowers. That orb of light that the men had seen was just their lantern.
Oh, no.
Wait, he didn't realize it was 3 women by the time he done stabbed them all? Ram was kind of off the chain.
Ram had been so convinced they were ghosts that he had taken off and attacked them with his knife, believing he was not only protecting himself, but protecting his boss and the other 2 men. However, he had been wrong. These were just women. and he killed one of them and severely wounded the other two. And so ultimately, he was charged with murder and assault. However, when he went on trial, he was actually acquitted of all charges because the jury genuinely believed that Rom actually thought he was attacking ghosts, not people.
I mean, benefit of the doubt, I guess.
I mean, he killed somebody, man.
Yeah, you gotta go. I mean, he gotta go. We wouldn't have got off with my jury.
No, me neither.
Nah.
Look,
how you get to three of them?
It's like oh, it was a mistake. I get that. A lot of crimes are a mistake.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you have to like someone's dead because of your actions.
Bro.
I'm sorry.
Bro.
But that's just how it is.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, 3. That's the thing. 3's the magic number, guys.
Yeah.
One. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Wait, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times. It's like, come on, dog.
Yeah.
Come on, stop it.
Gosh.
I can't kill one person and see 2 with them and be like they're ghosts. That just don't make no sense to me.
No, me neither.
Yeah, it don't make no sense to me. And how you gonna stab a ghost? That's my other thing.
I don't know. I mean, do you think your blade is blessed by Shiva, the god of death? I mean, I don't know.
Come on, man. Stop it. Now, this guy, like, does he pull these stories, or he, like, crafts them himself?
No. These are actual stories that people...
These are real life.
Like, there's a lot of them are news stories, from, like, around the world that he does research on.
Okay.
Some are ones that people on Reddit recommend to him.
Okay.
And this is just what he does.
That's interesting, man. He tells it really well.
Oh, yeah. John's a great storyteller.
Yeah, he really is.
Oh, a family ritual. This is the one.
Okay, I was wondering. I thought these were all rituals, but I guess not.
Yeah, this one's the
On
main
April 9th,
one.
2005, in Kaohsiung City, Taiwan,
Kaohsiung.
a young man was home alone inside of his apartment watching TV. And as he sat there watching TV, he heard a loud thumping sound coming from right above him. As soon as he heard it, he muted his TV and he listened for a second, and a minute later, he heard it again, a loud thump. And then he heard another one. And another one, and another one, and before long, all he heard was a succession of thumps and also what sounded like chanting coming from upstairs. However, as unusual as these types of sounds might be to the average person, to this young man, these actually weren't that weird. Because the family that lived right above him, the Wu family, were pretty eccentric. They were very religious people who often did these ceremonial dances and rituals at all hours. And a lot of times they involved stomping around and chanting really loudly. And as annoying as that could be, this young man never complained. He was very respectful of the Wu family, and he knew, these sounds he was hearing were connected to their religion, and he felt like that was none of his business. And so, like he did basically every other time he would hear these noises, he simply turned the volume up on his TV and tried to forget about it.
Ain't shit going on.
After a few minutes, it was like the noises coming from upstairs just kept getting louder and louder and louder until it was basically impossible to ignore. And then suddenly he heard a scream coming from upstairs that certainly did not feel attached to a ceremony. It sounded like somebody was in danger or in trouble or something. And so at that point, the young man turned the TV off and he stood up and he thought, I need to go up there and make sure things are okay. Forget being annoyed. It sounds like, someone's in trouble or someone's hurt or something. But as he began making his way towards his door to go upstairs and check on the Wu family, all the noises just completely stopped and it was silent upstairs. And at that point, the young man just stopped where he was. And for a minute, he just listened, waiting to see if maybe the noises would pick back up again. But they didn't. And so the young man just turned around, walked back to his seat, and turned the TV back on. 2 days later, on April 11th, that same young man was back home all alone, watching TV yet again, when, once again, he heard a loud pounding sound. Except this time, it was not coming from upstairs, it was coming from his front door. Somebody was hammering on his front door trying to get his attention. And so the young man turned off the TV, he got up, and he went over to his door, he opened it up, and standing there on the landing was this middle-aged man named Wu Shan, who was the patriarch of the Wu family upstairs. And Wu Shan looked absolutely horrible. He was dressed all in black head to toe, but he was pale and skinny and very gaunt, and he was covered in what looked like filth, like food and ash, and he smelled unbelievably horrible. And the young man, he asked Wu Shan, like, hey, is everything okay? And remember, the young man's thinking about that crazy, loud ceremony they had just 2 days earlier, wondering, whatever happened with that. That was so loud. But Wu Shan just looked back at the young man with this kind of vacant expression, and he just said, call an ambulance. And then, without saying anything else, Wu Shan turned, ran down the steps, and disappeared out into the street. And so at this point, the young man is left just standing there having no idea what to think. I mean, Wu Shan did not look well, and he's now run away. And again, this young man is thinking about that bizarre ritual he overheard a couple of days ago that just kind of stopped abruptly after screams were heard. Now he's being told to call an ambulance, and so he's thinking, I better go upstairs and make sure things are okay before I do anything else. And so the young man left his apartment, went upstairs to the Wu family's apartment, and the door was shut. But even standing outside the door, he began to smell that same absolutely horrible smell that he smelled on Wu Shan. And so he knocks on the Wu family's door. He's kind of covering his nose, but he doesn't get a response. Nobody comes to the door. And so after looking around, he just tried the doorknob, and he found it was unlocked. And so, pretty apprehensively, but knowing he needed to see what was going on here, he opened up the door, and right away he's hit with another wave of just this disgusting smell. He can barely breathe, but nonetheless, he steps into the house and he calls out to anybody, anyone come over here and tell me what's going on. But nobody called back. And he kind of looked around the family's apartment, and it was totally filthy. There was just this grime all over everything. And he made his way all the way into the living room, and there he stopped. Because in the middle of the living room on the floor, he saw something that he just simply couldn't believe. It would turn out the Wu family had performed a ritual 2 days earlier. That was the sounds that the neighbor downstairs had been hearing. Those loud stomping and screaming, all that stuff was a ceremony like the family was known to do. However, that ceremony got totally out of hand. So in the weeks leading up to that ceremony, one of the Wu family's daughters came down with an illness. And because the family didn't have a lot of money, they couldn't send her to the doctor. And after a couple of days, when she didn't get better, the family decided that, okay, well, she must not be physically sick. She must be spiritually sick, meaning she was possessed by a demon. And so at first, they tried some ceremonies to ward off this demon, but it wasn't really working. And then before long, the rest of the members of the family began complaining that maybe they too were also possessed by the same demon. And before long, that was the belief that the entire Wu family shared, that they all were possessed by demons.
Imagine getting your daughter getting a chest cold, and then all of a sudden you're just like, you're possessed by a demon. Yo. And all of a sudden, the other family members, they're like, it's like, oh, you're possessed by a demon too.
Demon as well.
I must relieve you of all of your pain. And then basically afterwards, you're just like, they're not waking up. I'm sorry, sir, but can you call the police for me? Yeah, that's literally what happened.
Just killed them, and yeah, whoa. And so the stench is dead bodies.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, I thought they was doing something in the ritual that was making it stink. That's what I was waiting for.
I mean, it has to be like dead bodies at this point. I mean,
would think, yeah.
Yeah, if it ain't, then I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, I thought you was throwing doo-doo on them or something.
Imagine that, just lumping turd biscuits at them.
This'll clear the demon out.
Just you just
gotta beat the doodle into him too. You know what I'm saying?
Just eating turds out of just
leave, demon. What is it, Boondocks? To get your black ass out of here. Nigga, get your black ass out of here.
The Black Exorcism.
That's what I thought of.
Where it was Tom. Started. He's like, y'all ain't shit. Y'all ain't shit.
I know what'll clear him out. A book. Nigga, read.
A job application.
A job application.
Here's a police baton and a whip and a belt. It's so messed up.
Yeah. So the first thing I thought of when this came on, I was like, man, I gotta save it.
Ruckus.
Save it.
Dude.
I love Ruckus up here causing havoc.
Say, I tell you, all these Taiwanese be on some crazy stuff. They be up there sacrificing each other, hurling turd biscuits around the room. It ain't right. This shit ain't right.
It ain't right.
They need to pray to white Jesus.
It's like Ruckus, yeah. Okay,
Right. Ruckus. From your 102% black ass, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? Rivera.
Yeah. That's what he kept saying. But then all of a sudden he did a genealogy test. He's like, says here that I'm 102% black with a 2% chance of
2%
error.
margin of error. I was like, damn.
Well, Ruckus.
Proves in the pudding.
Goodness gracious.
And so, on the day the downstairs neighbor heard all that stomping and chanting and screaming, that was the day that the Wu family performed a big group exorcism to try to get rid of these demons once and for all from all of them. But the way they did this exorcism was truly horrifying. They believed that the one thing demons were afraid of was filth. And so they decided that if they filled their bodies with enough filth, the demons would leave.
Are you crazy?
And so the Wu family, as they chanted and stomped around and screamed, began consuming their own feces. And when
I was right! Well, kind of right.
Oh.
They didn't throw it on them, but they definitely had some doo-doo in there. I knew there was doo-doo in there. Ain't no way it smelled that bad. Ain't
like, hold on. I think I got a fresh one cooking up for you.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Clear the canyon.
Yeah.
they would vomit it back up again, they would just swallow it right back down for hours and hours and hours.
Ugh.
What the downstairs neighbor actually discovered inside the living room of the Wu family's apartment was the daughter, the one who originally had gotten sick.
Oh.
And she was laying on the ground and was deceased. And during the autopsy, they would discover that her airway was totally blocked by feces and vomit.
It's
By the time the
baby.
downstairs neighbor made this discovery, the entire Wu family had fled the apartment. You know, Wu Shan had disappeared after saying calling an ambulance, and the rest of the family too had kind of run off. But the police would ultimately track down all the remaining Wu family members, and they would all be arrested. However, the court ultimately decided,
I had to do it.
That Law and Order?
Yeah, you are guilty.
that the Wu family was suffering from something known as mass hysteria. And as a result of that, they could not be held legally accountable for what they did. And so, they were all acquitted.
All acquitted.
Really?
That's ridiculous.
Oh, no. Y'all gotta go to doo-doo jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even go to regular jail.
You know what? If I was the judge in that case, I'd be like, all right, community service. 15,000 hours each.
Oh, my God. In the sewers or something?
Yeah. And yeah,
we want them clean.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we want all of the walls scrubbed clean, and we want all of the ice, the turdbergs, like the floating mounds of shit.
Oh my
we want them
God.
dealt with. Just like, and no, you can't eat them.
I was about to say, when you're eating them shit, being in it ain't shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because eating is a whole nother, well, it's all shit, I guess.
That's heinous.
No pun intended. Oh, this is disgusting. Yeah, I did not expect that. I mean, I expected something pretty, like, foul, but
Wasn't expecting the doo-doo, yeah.
Eating feces?
No.
Nah, that's way past my pay grade.
Same, dude. Same. I mean, I cleaned up human waste for a while when I used to work in like a home.
Yeah.
But my goodness.
Well, see, that's what keeps me away from plumbing. Like, I feel like plumbing is like an honest job. Like, I could do it, but doo-doo just keeps me away, bro.
Well, for me, man, the whole deal with doo-doo is like, if I ever had to deal with it, it's like sanitation suit.
You know what I'm saying?
Fucking gloves.
Hazmat, bro.
Full visor.
I can't smell nothing. I can't feel nothing.
And with the air filter, with the essential oils in the thing, and I'm like, smells like lilacs. It smells like lilacs, and is that honey? That's nice. And all of a sudden, here I am in the midst of a giant pile of shit, just
knee
like
deep in doo-doo.
yeah, just like. Oh man, did you hear they're having a huge problem in New York? with like their sewer system.
I did
because
yeah.
apparently there's like this huge blockage from like where people have been dumping their oil down the drains.
Oh my God!
And
really?
it's just like massive mounds of like this coagulated oil that are just blocking up the main sewer line.
So it's like building up and like a bust or some shit.
Oh yeah, well, but here's the thing: you can go in there with like a crust buster and like bust it all up. But since there's so many people living in New York City, and none of them dispose of the oil properly,
they just gotta dump that in the ocean, don't they?
Well, now here's the thing: you can dissipate it and when it gets to the sewage treatment facility. Then they can like deal with it there.
Okay.
But it still has to get to the sewage treatment facility. Right. So basically, these dudes got to go down there with what they call the crust buster and just like bust it up, like break it all up so it can get down there. Yeah, basically. And I've seen the one like them use one out here on this tank because where no one had lived here for like 4 or 5 years. Basically, the whole thing was solidified. And also, it was solidified in the main drain line that went out there. Uh-huh. And they had to go, and they had to they went down. They opened up the pipe over here, and they went down with like a one that could go around corners and everything.
Yeah.
And they pushed it out. The dude said the exit pipe's like this big around. He said it was basically about 15 feet of just like solid. All the way back to the house, and I was just like, my goodness. Yeah, and they had to put a new like cap on the tank out there because the old cap busted. Yeah, it was a thing.
Old cap couldn't take the smell. It's like
probably. And my lawnmower dude keeps running into it, and I'm like, dude, if you break the cap on that, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah, facts. It's over with.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, let's.
In case you haven't heard yet. Our newest graphic novel, Mr. Ballin Presents Where Nightmares Live, is available for pre-order.
Yeah, he got a new graphic novel.
It contains another 9 heart-stopping, strange, dark, and mysterious stories, all based on real events. This was a passion project. It took a lot of time, a lot of people involved, from the artwork to the storytelling. I mean, this is a beautiful piece to add to your collection, so you got to check it out. The book comes out on September 30th, but again, you can pre-order your copy at book.ballinstudios.com, or you can click the link in the description below. There are a limited number of hand-signed copies available,
because the first one, he came with the first one,
quickly. So please,
and I'd love to
today.
get my hands on one of those. And then, of course, this one as well, because I like supporting John directly, because
he's a good dude. Sounds like a good dude.
Yeah. He hit 10 million subs here recently, and I'm super happy that he did.
That's a huge accomplishment.
Well, he deserves it, man. I mean, John's a good dude. John's a great dude.
Oh, I enjoyed every bit of that video.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
good.
Well, everyone, hopefully this was a warning to a lot of you out there. Be wary of the stuff that goes on around you, and also keep out the shit.
Be wary of what you do with your doo-doo.
Exactly, yeah. The doo-doo that you do.
The doo-doo that you do. It's ooh-ooh.
It's ooh. Ooh. I know you like to think yo shit don't stink, but lean a little bit closer, see. Roses really smell like poo poo poo. Yeah.
Cue to Andre.
Yeah. Gosh. Okay. Outcasts. I really miss those guys, but hey.
They're like, they need to do something. No, hopefully they do something.
Well, Andre 3K has basically said that he's retired from music because he feels like he doesn't have anything else to put out
to contribute.
And I'm like, I get it, man, but
I don't believe that.
Come on, 3K. You got some stuff you need to say.
Come on, bro.
There's some stuff you feel.
It's too natural. Yeah, it's too natural, bro.
Yeah.
He's fighting it. There's something in the industry he's like not with.
Oh, well, I agree with that. Yeah. And that's why Frank Ocean left and basically ain't coming back.
Oh, really?
Frank Ocean basically said, yeah, Frank basically said he's done. He's just disappeared. He ain't, like, after he did Blonde, he was just like, yeah, I'm done. I ain't about this no more.
Wow. But I fuck with that though. Like,
I do too.
Yeah, I fuck with that.
I do too, because it's their life.
Yeah,
it's how they're living. That's what they want to do.
Facts.
But all right, everybody. Thank y'all again for tuning in.
Man.
If y'all want to see more, click Mr. Ballin like right up here. And also, if you want to see more from us, hit that subscribe button right there. And of course, in front of Drawn Up, you will see a recommendation.
Like
It'll be a random one, probably be Mr. Ballin related. I don't know. In front of me, you'll see our D&D playlist. And yeah, till then, everybody, I'm Nate.
Drawn Up.
Y'all be good people.
Peace.